Welcome to another episode of Over the Should, the podcast where we explore transformative journeys and inspiring stories that challenge the status quo. Today, we're excited to welcome Kim, the dynamic force behind Kim Mosiman Wellness. With a holistic approach to health and well-being, Kim empowers individuals to reclaim their vitality and live life to the fullest. Her unique blend of expertise in wellness coaching and personal transformation has helped countless people break free from the constraints of modern life. Join us as we delve into Kim's story, her philosophy on wellness, and the impactful work she's doing to inspire change. Welcome to the show, Kim.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Anything I missed in the intro that you want to share with us?
Well, at the very basis of who I am, I'm a wife, a mom, a new grandma, which is something exciting, something I need to learn about. It is as great as everyone says. I've started coaching. I wrote a book and I've started working with new authors on how to launch their books into the world. So I have found a place in my second act, and I'm trying to expand my horizons.
Congratulations on becoming a grandma.
Yes.
And there's so much to unpack there. I love that you said your second act. I think that's a great opportunity for so many of us. I think I'm getting towards the second act chapter of life and curious about what that will mean and how it unfolds. You wrote a book, so congratulations on being an
Thank you.
author and now helping other people get to those aspirations that they have to be authors as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your wellness coaching program?
My wellness coaching stemmed from a period of time when I ran a gym. So in my first act, I owned a small boutique gym where I helped men and women. Well, they would come to me for a 9-week period of time. There was challenges. They would take a picture, a little competition amongst members, and a winner at the end. And during that time, I had the opportunity to work with people who often didn't love who they were, or maybe a diagnosis that they had been given. And so they worked to change those things. And it was very fulfilling, but it was also troubling in the fact that most of my clients were focused on the end. They weren't enjoying life as it unfolded. They weren't appreciating the 2-pound loss. They were focused on the 30-pound loss. Maybe the size whatever that was in between here and there didn't satisfy them. And so that's where my wellness practice has focused now. I work on trying to help, particularly women, focus on the good that is happening in their lives today. It may not where they want to be, but there's so much good in the now that I feel like we can make sustainable changes when we're not just focused on that end point.
Right. There's joy in the journey along to the destination. It can be hard. Just speaking for myself, when you have a number for the scale or for your genes in mind and you're not there yet, or you feel like you're not getting there as fast, your mind can play tricks on you. You're not working hard enough. If you did something a little different, if you were a little more dedicated. So being able to coach people from that mindset to a mindset of just trust the process and enjoy it along the way is a really valuable mindset shift, particularly for women.
Yes, I think so too. And so many women give up the joys in life to get to the end point. We're not meant to pass on the piece of birthday cake when our child turns 5, and not only are we not meant to give up everything in life, but we're setting an example. We're setting a standard for our children when they watch us not eat that thing because we're not happy with ourselves.
Right. Yeah, I've talked about this before. My kids are older now. I have 18, 16, and 14, but remembering when they were small, and we had a pool in our backyard, and I didn't get in the pool with them. I would sit out and I'd watch them, and I'd always say, I'm tidying this up. I'm doing whatever I had an excuse for. Instead of going in the pool and enjoying that moment with them while they were young, they didn't care if I had a squishy tummy. They didn't care what I looked like in a bathing suit. I cared. And it was such a missed opportunity. There was still joy in that part of the journey, even if I didn't fit in the bathing suit the way I wanted to. And I really missed out on that because I was so deep in comparison. I don't look like this other mom. This person bounced back right away. I can't lose those 10 pounds, whatever that was, and just allowed that comparison and the feeling that I wasn't living up to what I saw on TV, on social media,
Yep.
I didn't think that I deserved to be in a bathing suit, even though it was just with my kids. And looking back, that's so silly. And I was modeling behavior that I hope they don't ever repeat.
Hmm.
And that's hard. And you have to go back now. I have teenage girls and I have to go back and have a conversation with them that they are beautiful from the
Hmm.
inside out. And the least interesting thing about them is their exterior package.
Right.
Are you on the inside? How are you showing up for your friends and for yourself? How do you contribute back? What groups are you part of? Those things that make you uniquely you, that's what makes you beautiful.
Yep.
Um, but modeling that for our kids is really
It,
important and hard.
it is so hard. It is so hard. And I had sons, but we're modeling for them as well. We're teaching them how to view women. We're
Mhm.
teaching them how to love themselves as well. If I don't like myself because my tummy is squishy, what must I think of them, if they
Mhm.
reach that same point? And I just really, whether it's in my family, with my friends, with my coaching clients, we just really try to focus on the good. We have a responsibility to be healthy. I mean, I'll never take that off the table. We shouldn't weigh more than our bodies can care for. We shouldn't practice unhealthy habits. We shouldn't listen to me. We shouldn't, right? I could should all over myself. But the simple fact is we have responsibility to be healthy, but we also have a responsibility to be happy and to enjoy those moments that we have with one another. And sometimes that means going slow.
Right.
Sometimes that means lowering the expectation, or maybe not striving for perfection, but living in those moments of good enough and well done rather than you've arrived.
Absolutely. So you talked about responsibility. What are your thoughts on a movement towards body positivity?
First and foremost, I believe every body is worthy and beautiful and important. I would never take that away from someone. But like I said before, I think we have a responsibility. Our bodies were not meant to carry hundreds and hundreds of pounds. They're not meant to sit. They're
Mhm.
meant to move and to eat whole foods and to sleep and to engage in activity rather than focus on body positivity. Knowing that I feel every woman is beautiful, I like to focus on body responsibility and what can I do today that will allow me to do it again tomorrow. And maybe if I'm not feeling 100% myself, how can I alter those things so that I'm respecting how I feel in the moment?
That's really powerful. I think that sometimes we can get wrapped up in the toxicity of positivity. I think there's something to fake it till you make it. But I know
Mhm.
in my journey with eating, with body acceptance, I had to get to a place of neutrality, not
Mhm.
not positivity. I could not get to a place from looking in the mirror and being very unhappy to looking in the mirror and be like, look at you, you look great. And that faking it till you make it wasn't a part of my journey, but being able to look in the mirror and say, wow, these arms carried babies all day long and cooked a meal and worked. And these legs got you up and down the stairs and just being appreciative.
Mhm.
And then the element of responsibility in that is, and then how else can I continue to take care of myself? Not so
Correct.
I could be a size whatever, but because I want to see my kids grow up and I want to have grandkids that I can run around with when that time comes.
Yeah. I take my readers through an exercise called Wells and Betters. And it's something that came from my days working in a restaurant a long, long time ago, where we would come through a busy period of time and we would gather with our staff and we would talk about what went well and what could have gone better. And so in this exercise that there's little charts and graphs, but I encourage my readers to look in a mirror and start first with the positive. What do I love about myself? What do I like about myself? For me, I love my eyes. I love a good hair color. If I gain weight or if I lose weight, my legs always stay the same. By some miracle of God, my legs are still great at 57 years old. So I can look at those things And I can put value in these good things in me. But
Mhm.
then on the flip side, what do I want to change? Would I like to lose some weight? Absolutely. But that doesn't offset what's already good. So I think we need to look in the mirror. It's not just, you're right. You can't just stick a sticky note on the mirror that
Right.
says, you are beautiful and believe it. You have to look and you have to identify what is good
Mhm.
and what could change. It's not bad, but maybe it could change.
Mhm.
And I think, again, that just leads us towards sustainable change.
Mhm. And you said something earlier that resonated. You have two sons, and my oldest is a boy as well. Our responsibility to the boys and the men in our life to also help them. Before we started recording, I was telling you that I read an article that body dysmorphia is on the rise for men, and
Hmm.
there are more men getting plastic surgery now. They're seeing an increase with women, but there are more men than they've seen in the past. And so, the idea of making sure that our sons and partners and whomever's in our life that they also recognize the good, and
Hmm.
we can help with that in ways that we are positive and encouraging, while they work towards whatever the better might be for them if that's the case. But remembering, because this is mostly an audience of women, we know as women we're taught to be typically small and humble and cute, and what's the reel going around now, like demure and
Yeah.
cutesy. And I busted through that one a long time ago. We forget that our sons are also watching, to what you said earlier, of how they see themselves, of how they'll see their future partner one day.
Hmm.
It's bringing like full awareness to how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about ourselves in front of others, in front of the mirror. When we think our kids aren't listening, they probably are listening. Whether we have sons or daughters, it matters. So
Hmm.
even getting to that place of neutral,
Yes.
being able to appreciate what is good, like you said, is so valuable and so important for changing your inner confidence, but also for what's reflected outward to our family.
Yes, I agree. And for that listener out there who can't find the thing that they love about themselves, I'd encourage them to ask someone else.
Mm.
That was one of the questions on my intake form when I owned the gym. Name three things or list three things that you love about yourself. And it was the one question that almost everyone left blank, which makes me very sad because I just met you and I've already shared with you. I love my eyes. I love my legs. I love these things. But for that woman who can't identify what she loves about herself, turn to your spouse, turn to your friends, turn to your children and ask them, what do you love about me? Because no matter how crummy you're feeling about yourself, they love you. And
Mhm.
and it has nothing to do with squishy tummy or
Mhm.
messy hair or cranky day. There's something they love about you.
That's so beautiful. I'm gonna nerd out on you a little bit. Have you ever watched Ted Lasso?
Yes, of
Ugh,
course.
one
Yes.
of my favorite shows. And that
Yes.
made me think about when Roy Kent was retiring and he's basically going down the path of what am I going to be? I'm nothing now, like that, this journey for him. And Keely had his niece describe him. And she
Hmm.
didn't ever say he's a soccer player. She just said he's funny and he eats ice cream and I love him. And I love what you just did with that because it's kind of the same practice, finding somebody that you trust and respect in
Hmm.
your life to reflect back on you. And they're probably not going to say, well, her thighs are a big. They're going to say, oh my, her eyes light up when she laughs. She gives me the best hugs, like whatever that might be. So finding the
Yep.
people that you could trust in your life who reflect to you the things that they find admirable about you. What a great exercise.
Yes. Yes. Very important to know.
Mm. So tell me about your book. What should we expect when we read it? Does it take us through any of these exercises?
Reflections of Joy started out as a how-to book. I thought when I owned the gym, I had everything figured out. And if I could just put it in a book and send it to you, you could learn how we exercised and how I taught them to balance food and do all the things and that you'd love the recipes that I included. But I sold the gym, or I closed the gym when my husband's job was slowing down. And all of a sudden, I was plunged into a place where my children were grown and gone.
Mm.
I didn't have a job. I wasn't actively involved in my church. And I lived this sort of purposeless period of time. And I gained weight and I really kind of became my client. I just looked in the mirror and I thought, I have to do something miraculous. I need a 9-week challenge. I need something to make me feel better. And that lasted more than 9 weeks. It lasted a couple of years. And I'm an avid journaler. And one day I picked up my pretty journal and I turned the page. And from Song in Solomon, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it said, "You are wonderful, my dear. There is no flaw in you."
Mm.
And I started to cry. And I realized that no matter how awful I felt about myself, just what we talked about, my husband loves me.
Yeah.
My children love me. My God loves me.
Mm.
And at no point in time in my life had I ever been unworthy or unbeautiful. I just had to snap out of it and start doing something about it if I wanted to change. And so I started putting into practice the things I had taught my clients. And so Reflections of Joy went from being a how-to manual to a how I learned to love myself again. And in it, you'll find chapters about faith and about habits and about food and movement and community, and also the fine art of letting go
Mhm.
of all the shoulds that we put on ourselves as women, particularly women who are reaching that new stage in life where they're changing jobs or their kids have moved on to
Mhm.
college. Just that time where you don't know who you are or what you want to be.
Mhm. It feels like a scary time. And I think so many of us miss the fact that it's also an opportunity time. It is
Hmm.
a fresh page. And that fresh page is super uncomfortable because you don't know how to write it yet.
Right.
To what you said earlier, that really resonated. I was just coaching a client on this yesterday, the importance of purpose. When
Hmm.
you don't connect with what fires you up, what excites you, what makes you feel fulfilled, then you feel rudderless. And I think
Hmm.
it's in those, personally, it's in those moments for me when I feel rudderless that I turn to food, that I turn to
Yep.
just sitting and doing a Netflix watch. Um, None of those things are inspiring. They
Hmm.
don't help me move towards a goal that I have. So the
Yep.
importance of connecting to the things that truly excite you and that feel
Hmm.
meaningful to you, that is hugely important. And you can't even have that story that you can share unless you go through that experience. So I'm sad that you went through the experience, but I'm so grateful that you turned it into a journal, that turned into a book to create
Hmm.
inspiration for people who can remember that faith and habits and recipes and body movement, the things that matter to a holistic person body, that guidance is there, and that you're able to talk people through that through your coaching business is also incredibly valuable.
And it's so important. So many women that reach my age, and I'm certainly not done, but I'm approaching 60. For our whole lives, we've been somebody's daughter or somebody's wife or somebody's mother or somebody's employee. And those are all good things. All good things. And they're all the things that shape us into who we are. But finally, at this moment of my life, I can be who Kim wants to be. And Kim wants to interact with people and be a coach and listen and help them find who they want to be. Kim wants to be an author. Kim wants to be a wife and someone who travels. Those are things that I may have wanted when I was younger, but I didn't have the time or the schedule that allowed for it.
Mhm.
So, gosh, when people think that they're all washed up, I would say stop and turn around. There's so many things out there to explore.
I totally agree. And so, to that point, to the woman who's looking at the blank page in the
Hmm.
second act, how would you encourage them to discover who they are because they have been wearing hats and roles for so long? What would that look like?
Pick up your bucket list and maybe you don't have $1 million to travel around the world, for a full year. Maybe, but maybe you always thought, oh, it'd be fun to be a photographer. You can go take a $20 class.
Yeah.
you know, with your phone that you carry around in your pocket most of the time. Pick up a book that gives you prompts and begin to write. Go to lunch with your friends. So many of us didn't have careers that allowed us to do those things. just start small, just take the first step. And some people, they find themselves in a place where they're also very deconditioned. I've worked my whole life. I've never exercised. I don't have the energy or the bandwidth to do these things. Again, start small. Just start walking. If it's to the mailbox and back again, start moving your body. Start focusing on what could be instead of what is.
Mhm. I love.
Mhm.
So when you talk to folks and you've written in your book about wellness, what does a comprehensive wellness plan look like for you?
Hmm. I encourage people just to, you can't do everything at one time. You have
Mhm.
to focus on the low-hanging fruit and move forward. So if maybe I talk about crowding out, and I learned about crowding out when I was studying with the Integrative Institute of Nutrition. And crowding out is just adding in those little things that push the bad away. So maybe you live a life of hamburgers and french fries and sodas. Okay. You have ground zero. So what can I do just a little bit better? Maybe I'm going to have the hamburger and the french fries and I'm going to have a glass of water. It's a little bit better.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't exercise at all. Like I said, you could just walk to the mailbox and back. Tomorrow, do it twice. The next day, 3 times, or take a walk around the block. You can change anything you want in your life, but if you try to go from 0 to 60 today, you're either going to hurt or you're going to be miserable,
Mhm.
and it's just not sustainable. Whatever you want to do. And this is what with my clients, we look at what's the one thing that can get me closer to where I want to be with the least amount of resistance and start there.
Yes, I love that. When I first really got back into exercising, I will be honest, I could not stand half of the exercises I was doing, and I did not find joy in getting up to exercise. And it was because I did not want to get up and exercise, but also I didn't enjoy what I was doing. When I started to dance and adding dance in, even though I have two left feet and I was out of breath, 15 minutes into the routine when I first started, I enjoyed it so much.
Hmm.
It was a happy thing. And subsequently, years later, like I dance every single day now. And
Hmm.
it is my happy place. So even in the mornings, my alarm goes off at 5:15. I'm like, ugh, I don't want to get up. I get up, I go to YouTube, I have a playlist in YouTube that is all my favorite dance routines and Zumbas and all the different things that are available for
Yep.
free. And I click play and probably 3 minutes into it, I am smiling, I am having fun. 30 minutes later, or however long my routine can be that day, I'm sweaty and my endorphins are pumping and I'm feeling really
Yep.
good to take on the day. And so it just, I think finding joy and knowing that when I first started thinking about doing a 45-minute dance workout, I would have said, no, that doesn't even, no, no
Hmm.
joy. There's no joy in that for me. 15 minutes is fine. And I literally started 15 minutes at a time. And I
Yep.
also picked up yoga. And now subsequently I've become a certified yoga teacher and I teach yoga now and I love it. And I think the important thing that I've been learning through this process is yoga, it's supposed to be also a mindset exercise, and it really allows you to connect inward and challenge yourself differently. And yoga is a practice that you have for yourself, not as a comparison to somebody else.
Hmm.
That's lovely. But yoga didn't make me happy. Dancing didn't make my life happy. Looking at my life holistically, I'm never going to yoga myself out of burnout. I'm
Right.
never going to dance myself into a happy marriage. So, what are the other elements of life that make a comprehensive wellness plan? I think is really important too, to the point of what you said about habit stacking and faith, finding good friend groups,
Hmm.
surrounding yourself with the right people, involving yourself in community where you can. I find that contributing back from a place of servant leadership makes me feel rewarded in return. So the wellness piece of if I just exercise and I just eat right, those are great. Those will help you condition your body. You're so much more than just your body. So making sure you're also
Yes,
conditioning your mind and your spirit and your soul.
absolutely. I agree 100%. And as I was thinking about sitting and visiting with you today, thinking about all the things that we should give up, right? And but the one thing that we should carry with us forever and ever is that the only important thing in life is being the very best person you can be for yourself, whatever that is that you choose, and just simply loving. We forget how important it is to have love in our lives and to have those people that surround us. And good marriages are not made in big houses with big bank accounts. They're made with honest communication and trust and love. And good families are not made with 2.5 kids that look cute for the pictures, that you post on Instagram. They're also teaching those kids the same trust and love and honesty and servant leadership that you talk about. And there's just so much more to living a well life, not a good life, but a life that is full of goodness.
I love that. On your website, you had something that I found really intriguing because
Mhm.
I do have teenagers and we do have big appetites in this house. Cook once, eat twice, I think was the program I saw. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
I need that in my life.
Yes. Well, I cook 2 or 3 times a week. And when I cook, I always cook twice as much as I need. It was more difficult when I had teenage boys in the house because they would see more on the counter and think that's for me. Now that it's just my husband and I still do that. So if I'm going to roast a chicken for dinner tonight, I'm going to roast two. And one will be for dinner. I'll shred all of the leftover meat and it will become one or two other meals. My people didn't like leftovers, so I had to trick them. I always bought chicken with the whole chicken, so I could boil the bones and I could create broth.
Yeah.
Then I can have chicken chili or chicken soup, or the shredded meat could become quesadillas, any number of things. So cook once and then repurpose that main protein most of the time. I also cook large amounts of vegetables. I roast huge sheet pans of vegetables. It's hash for breakfast. It might be a side dish for dinner. It could go in that soup. I
Mhm.
just think that there are so many ways that we can cook at home, but there's not enough time to cook 3 meals a day from scratch for 5 people. It
Right.
just, I mean, unless that's all you do. And so I have friends who plan and they have the little things on their refrigerator that say, this is what we're going to eat every day. I was not a good planner because no one wanted what was posted on the fridge. I was a prepper. And so we always had leftover chicken. We had maybe leftover roast that could be shredded and turned into fajitas. We always have hard-boiled eggs. That can become egg salad. It can just be whatever it is. So the I have a chicken cookbook on my website that is available if people want to pop over there and sign up.
Mm.
We go through all different ways to cook the chicken for your first meal and then ways to repurpose it for others. There is a beef one on the way. There's also a bean one on the way because I'm a huge fan of beans and as they are with rice, with soup, as a dip, all kinds of things. So,
I love that. That's so valuable as a working parent who is expected to have dinner on the table for the kids. I find a couple things. Number one, when they were younger, totally, I'm going to be cooking. I usually came home, I was still in my heels and my clothes, and I'm trying to get
mhm.
everything cooked. I didn't want to take my heels off, not because I wanted to look cute, but my feet would always smell really bad after a whole day of walking in high heels. And I know it's a terrible thing to say, and I just outed myself. So I would be like the 1950s wife that I imagine, putting dinner on the table. Now they're older and I'm working all day. And I'm like, why don't you guys cook dinner? But
Yep.
making it easier for them. Having stuff prepped would really help with that. And then if for some reason they have homework and everybody's got jobs now and sports they're doing, it makes it easier for me. And it's one less stressful moment. It's one less moment where I don't want to be an explosive mom and like, why don't you cook something tonight? Why is it
Right.
always me? So it takes that away. And I have different eaters. I think a lot of families have picky eaters. I have
Mhm.
one that's a pescatarian, one that likes his own thing. And then my youngest is like, oh, whatever you feed me, which
Yeah.
makes it really easy. So sometimes I'm cooking different meals. So the prepping ahead is a really good idea. And then I'm looking forward to the different versions of cookbooks that you have. I've got two that would love the chicken cookbook, and I've got one that would be all about the bean cookbook. So that's
Yeah.
exciting. You know, it's coming.
Yep. And the best thing about that, my boys, there are times where I would come home after a full day at the gym and dinner would be there. It could be that they just pulled that leftover chicken out and they made quesadillas. It's
Hmm.
great. I mean, everybody can pick and choose their own. Tacos is a huge hit. And we also always have a big, huge tub full of salad ready to go.
Yes.
So, one might add chicken and a bunch of vegetables, another might add a can of tuna, whatever. It just makes them able to help out.
I love that. We did during COVID when everything was shut down, I told them all, my three kids, to find a recipe that they want to cook. And we were going to
Hmm.
have a kid cook off. And so they all cooked they ordered, put everything in the cart. We ordered it and picked it up. And then they all cooked their own meals. And the family came and everybody was, judging what
Yep.
meal was best. And of course, all the moms, my mom and myself were like, everything is equally good. We love it all.
Yep.
And there was a
Yep.
clear winner, but it was such a fun experience because it took something that felt monotonous and made
Yep.
it joyful and fun for them. And we were a very competitive family, so they were in it to win it. So, just also to taking opportunities to make the prep simple for the kids to help, to put a little bit of
Hmm.
a competition or something fun to it to get them excited and involved, while also teaching them healthy ways to
Yep.
prepare food and how you can use spices to enhance flavor without always having to use butter or something else. I think is also a really great opportunity.
Yep. I agree. It's funny you talk about that. We had boys' night when they were growing up, and our school district didn't allow sports on Wednesdays. So that was always our boys' night. And they would go through, back in the day when there were magazines that came to the house on a regular basis, they would go through these cooking magazines that I got, pick a recipe, make a list. I would shop for them, and then they would come home and they would cook. Of course, they would cook, so then that meant I had to clean, this little role reversal. But it was a great way for them to learn how to cook, to not count on a drive-through. I mean, college is stressful and hard enough to not be focusing on now I should be cooking my meals too once they get into an apartment. But
Mhm.
if they know how, it becomes their automatic. And yeah, both of my boys are great cooks. They have their own specialties. One likes to grill, one likes to be a little bit more culinary in his methods, and his newfound thing is to sous vide mostly everything.
Wow.
Um, but they love to cook. So yeah, yes.
Teach them young. That's exactly right. And watching them do things on their own is really exciting. And my son will be 19 in a few days, and him and his girlfriend will come here. And I'll buy, just like you said, I'll buy all the food for what they want to make.
Hmm.
But watching them together make chicken parmesan or whatever that is, it's cute. It brings me a lot of happiness to
Yep.
watch the way that they are creating
Yes.
different habits in their own staying at home date night, which is much more affordable for college kids. But all of that is because as parents, we are trying to create the space and the opportunity for them to learn, to do things together, to find joy and pleasure in the cooking experience. It's not just a burden. And I think that that's a really fun thing to do with the kids. It's backfired 100,000 times. So I am not sitting here
Oh,
as a parent who has this all figured out by any means. There's been many
no.
times where we've burned the dish. There was a running joke when the kids were younger. We had a very sensitive fire detector in the house and it would go
Hmm.
off. And so the running joke was, dinner's ready. Like, because mom's cooking, it's going to
Yeah.
constantly burn. Thanks, guys. I will remember that forever. But
Yeah.
finding that the joy that you can in those moments and then using it to create healthy space for them is so important. I'm so glad
Yep.
you shared your stories. Thank you for that.
Yes. Yes.
And I know we're coming up on time. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you want to talk about?
Mm, I don't think so. This has been lovely. I just think it's so important that that as the role models for our children. I mean, not that our husbands aren't also, but society looks at us and we look at one another as being the nurturers and the carers and the example setters for our children. And I believe it's so important to support one another and to have these conversations and to really lift one another up. Um, So many people live life in comparison and they
Mhm.
don't feel good about themselves. It could be as simple as being on a Zoom call. With my writing, I was in a very large cohort and we would meet once a week, 20 little faces across the screen. And there was one woman I can think of in particular, and she would get on and she was very quiet and very, didn't want to engage, just there because she had to be there. And one day she showed up and she had just done something new with her hair and she looked so pretty. And she's sitting on the screen like she always does. And I thought, tapped in a little private message to
Yeah.
her. My goodness, you look so pretty today. I love the new hair. And you could just watch her light up. I feel like it's our responsibility today
Mhm.
with these situations and with us all being so open and exposed
Yeah.
to use that exposure to lift one another up. Shout out the good, shout out the beautiful, shout out the great ideas.
Mhm.
Just we should support one another. If there's any should in the world, it should be to lift one another up and to just create a place.
I love that. And I love that you said it's our responsibility. The kids will always be like, "Oh, mom, you talk to everybody." But I do what you just said, constantly tell women in passing, "Oh, I love your sweater. Your eyeliner is perfect. How, like, that's amazing." Just little compliments as you're
Yep,
passing, because the idea of just pouring a little bit into somebody, it cost
yep,
me nothing. It
yep.
took 5 seconds, and they might have a little bit of happiness or feel better in some way. And it's so important um, now, because for as many people, Kim, like you or myself, who want to lift up, fix crowns, help other women see their beauty and their strengths, there's also a world that tries to tear you down.
Mm.
I posted a reel on Instagram, and it was it was a piece of my solo podcast episode. And yesterday a gentleman felt the need to comment. And meanwhile, I was smiling in this episode, but he said, "Your face is full of hatred."
Mm.
And then he went on to DM me and tell me that my eyes looked terrible. They looked so bizarre and that they looked like they were full of hatred. So there's what I've learned as I've gotten older, and age is a great liberator, is I will thank the person who walks by and says, your braid is really great today. Thank you so much. I will ignore the person who has no value in my life who says your face is full of hatred. Um,
Mhm.
Learning how to distill and filter what we take in is also really important for us as we are
Yes.
coming up through the world, and more women telling other women, "My gosh, your laugh is so good. Like, it just makes me smile,"
Hmm.
or whatever that
Yep.
compliment is, makes all of the difference. And it allows us a buffer to tune out the trolls who have something negative to say that don't actually add value.
Yes, I agree 100%. And my publisher said we don't delete anything. We don't delete comments. Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
I did too.
Because, and you know what, if you read my book and you think my book is a 3 star or a 4 star, I'm okay with that. I don't need all fives. That's not what I'm trying to take into my life, but I'm not going to expose myself or the people who love me
Mhm.
to something that is unfounded, unwarranted, and unnecessary. Life is hard enough without people who think they need to make it harder. So I'm right there with you, sister. I don't need it. Our job should be to lift one another up and
Yes.
to create a place where we can just experience all that life has to give us.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the delete and block.
Yep, yep.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I love to ask. I am a huge quote collector, so I love to
Hmm.
ask the guest as the last question. What is your favorite quote that you'd want to share?
The one that's hanging on my wall is by Henry David Thoreau, and it is go confidently in the direction of your dreams. Live the life you've imagined.
I love that. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Kim. You're just
Yes.
a ray of sunshine. You have so much wisdom. And I love the pieces that you put into the book. I will be buying a copy of it. Just the idea of faith and habits and creating a space for wellness. I think that is incredible and exactly what we need. And I'm looking forward to additional cookbooks from you.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today.